And 3. All right, hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Rooting for Laundry. I'm your host, Johnny McDonald. You can follow me on socials at Here's Johnny Mac, and you can also follow the Twitter and Instagram page at Root for Laundry, ROOTFOR Laundry. If you don't know how to spell, well, Root for Laundry. Thanks for joining us. If you are joining, this is episode 2. Episode 1 was with we covered the New York Knicks with big Knicks fan Anthony Donahue. I want to thank Anthony again for doing that for me. It was fun. We went down memory lanes and good times of the 90s Knicks and their shortcomings, but definitely fun. We had a lot to talk about. Episode 2, I decided to go with a road team. I'm a Jets fan, if anybody knows, and I'm covering their division rival, the Miami Dolphins, the evil Miami Dolphins. Miami Dolphins, if you know, they're on the same division, the AFC East, with the New York Jets. The history started in 1965 when they first joined the American Football League, which is the AFL, and they've been in the league ever since with the merger of the NFL around then. And the Dolphins been in the same division, NFC East. We have the Jets, New England Patriots, Buffalo Bills, and the Miami Dolphins. And joining me are 2 huge Miami Dolphins fans. Going to bring them in. First, I'm going to bring in my good buddy, big Miami Dolphins fan, currently resides in Los Angeles, but from Brooklyn, New York. Say what's up to Neil Charles, ladies and gentlemen. Neil Charles, how you doing?
I'm great. Thank you for having me, Johnny.
All right.
Appreciate it.
And my other guest is also a comedian, a Floridian, native of the South Florida area or peninsula or whatever you want to call it. And
so technical.
Funny guy, currently resides in New York City, doing stand-up. Give it up for my man Dave Kinney.
Hey, thanks for having me, man.
Thanks for being here, guys. First off, how you guys doing? We're quarantined and stuff. We're stuck in our houses. How you been surviving, Neil, in LA?
I'm all right. I mean, LA is on its way to flattening the curve, so it's not as bad. I mean, I think we went from number 3 to 5 in infections, which is good.
Yeah.
So doing all right. Haven't been outside in a while, but not having cabin fever, so still good. All
right, Dave, how you doing, man? You're in New York.
Well, I'm okay, but both Johnny and I are in New York. Neil's just taunting us. Yeah, it's fine. Everything's great. I went for a walk today.
I can see the skyline now because there's nobody out. No snow.
It's like dancing. It's like dancing in front of someone in a wheelchair. Nothing but blue skies.
I'm inside just like you guys, man.
I'm just glad Neil's happy.
Yeah, I'm glad all you guys happy. I'm happy because in January I won our fantasy football league. First African American to do it.
Yeah,
it's a big deal.
I was like, why would he want us? I was like, why would he want us both on the podcast? It's like so we can brag about fantasy.
I know. I knew
I've been in that league forever, and I mean, I actually been doing well, but I never won the big one. It's usually, some guys won twice.
I know.
You know what I'm saying? And I'm just happy to win one time. I needed the money, I tell you that much. So that money definitely came in handy. But fun season. So now we're on to your favorite team, the Miami Dolphins. So Neil, you're born and raised in Brooklyn, and now residing in Los Angeles. But how did you become a Miami Dolphins fan? That's interesting. When did this happen? When did your fandom first start?
I would say it was somewhere in the early 90s, somewhere around there. Like a lot of people that love the Miami Dolphins, it started in the Dan Marino era.
Yeah, absolutely. Dan Marino Marino had every NFL quarterback record.
Except
like 2000.
the one that got the ghosts, you know. So
Yeah, except.
Yeah. So,
Yep.
Neil, what made you like, Dan Marino era?
Okay.
Like, what made you? What
Yeah.
was your first like? What got your attention with football and the Miami Dolphins? What
Okay.
sprung you?
So football. I mean, I don't know if this is gonna sound crazy to anyone out there or you guys, but I pretty much learned the rules of football from playing the video game Tecmo Bowl on Nintendo. Like that's how I learned. And
Yeah,
that
that
was pretty
makes
much my favorite game. And my favorite team was, take a wild guess, the Miami Dolphins with Dan
Nice.
Marino at quarterback. And then I was like, oh man, I fell in love. And he used to just throw these lasers.
Yeah, Tecmo
And-
Bowl was interesting to remember. It didn't have like it had the NFL players, but it didn't have the exact NFL teams. I mean, you know, Miami was
It did. I mean,
not the first one, the second
No,
one.
you
The
sorry,
Tecmo
the-
Super Bowl.
the first
Yeah,
and
you're talking about
second
Tecmo
one
Super
did.
Bowl.
Yeah, Tecmo
Tecmo-
Bowl, and then
Tecmo
Super
Super
Bowl.
Bowl. Yeah.
Yeah, Super Bowl had the NFL teams.
Mm-hmm.
The original Tecmo Bowl did not have the NFL teams.
It
It
was
was
just
just who you were playing with.
Yeah,
But
you
it
just
had
said
the
Miami.
names.
Yeah.
It had the names though.
Yeah, it had the players' names. Like it was like licensed by the Players Association, but not the
Right.
NFL exact teams. I mean, they had their colors.
Right.
It was kind of
Right.
like remember basketball, Double Dribble on Nintendo. Like they had
Right.
the actual cities, but they didn't have the teams.
Right.
So it's like, nor the players. So it was like
Mhm.
similar to that. So Tecmo Super Bowl, Dan Marino, and that was the age. You had the receivers were the Marks.
Yep. The
Like
Marx
Mark-
Brothers.
Yeah, Super
Clayton and
Duper and
Duper.
Mark. Yeah, Mark Clayton. So that was like, and from there, I guess after playing Tecmo Super Bowl, you just started watching the games. You're like, oh, it's a Sunday. I'll watch a game.
Got a
And
lot of
then-
hate from Jets fans, you know, being in New York.
yeah.
They were just like, yo, how did that happen? And most of the people that I know, like when I would tell them that I'm a Miami Dolphins fan, they'd be like, oh, Marino did this.
Yeah, it made sense.
Like, I'm sure did. I love Dan Marino.
He
Yeah.
did this to you.
Ooh, Dan Marino can do no wrong.
No.
And then moving on to Dave, like your story's different. You're a native Floridian, so it's like Miami Dolphins kind of came hand in hand. So when did your fandom first start?
Well, it's actually a little bit similar to Neil. I mean, I moved there in '93. Ace Ventura: Pet Detective, one of the greatest movies of all time. Came
All
out,
time,
like,
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
robbed at the Oscars.
Yeah. Oh, for
I mean,
sure.
it's a commonality between that movie and the team, just constantly robbed of championships.
So
yeah.
Ray Finkel was your first favorite player.
Well, it was also, I mean, that year though. I mean, '94, we made it to the AFC Championship, and I do say
did.
we, the Miami Dolphins in a fourth grade me, together we all made it. But I think that, to be honest, I mean, I watched football when I was younger, but I don't think it was really. It was probably like right after I graduated from high school that I got way more into football because of two things. One was Madden. In college, I was just playing Madden constantly. To be honest, I mean, I grew up playing basketball and a bunch of other sports, but I wasn't really playing football a ton. So I'd enjoy watching it, but it just looked like two groups of dudes running at each other. Then all of a sudden, you play Madden and pretty
football.
quickly.
Yeah, you don't play football casually. Like, hey, you want to tackle each other?
Yeah. But then it's like you play Madden for just a little bit, and you already know the difference between like a 3-4 and a 4-3 defense and corner
Yeah.
blitzes and like shifting coverages. And it's this thing that just when you understand the game more, and I think it was a combination of that, and I knew someone who worked with the team, so all of a sudden I was able to get tickets to games. In the season that I got really into them was
like a family friend member, like a.
I was dating someone who was a cheerleader.
Oh, what?
Nice.
No,
Yeah.
you weren't. I don't.
Yeah, it didn't make any more sense then than it does now.
Wow. So you
People
were
would just be
dating
like, "So you sell drugs?" Or
you were dating a cheerleader, and the cheerleader was like, "Yeah, I got you. Just if
Well,
you show up at the stadium."
what's funny is that was the season. That was 2004. So that was the season that Ricky Williams decided he wanted to pursue other marijuana opportunities. So
we'll get to him.
but that was the thing though. So I mean, it was a season where they were expected to be pretty good, and then all of a sudden with Ricky Williams gone, they were 4-12. So a lot of the games were disappointing, but I think what really got me hooked was there were two games specifically. They played a game with the Rams, and the Rams were really good at the time, and it was like one of those games where it's just a bunch of trick plays. like a
And this was
receiver.
St. Louis Rams with Kurt Warner and Isaac Bruce. And
I think it was I think it was Mark Bulger, but it was
Bulger,
still
I'll
like
say this, like,
it was a game where like a receiver threw like a 40-yard touchdown. Booker did, but also, I mean, what really sold it for me was the Christmas game, Monday Night Football. They beat the Patriots. One of their only 4 wins. Beat the Patriots, who went on to win the whole Super Bowl that season. And it was just this thing of and it wasn't like they weren't checked out. I mean, they were still very much playing really hard. The Patriots were, but it was just that thing of like, I just remember there's something about like that thing when your team beats a team they're just absolutely not supposed to beat, and you're in the stadium and there's this just like euphoria where like everyone, it's like you feel like you're high on drugs or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and as a fan, it's like no better feeling than your team just being triumphant and beating beating the underdog and just overcoming the odds, and you're like, yeah, we're winning. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, yeah,
it makes it up for all the times that they don't overcome the odds, which our
which
team
is pretty
regular
now. Pretty regular now. So it's like, all right. So you became a diehard fan in 2004.
Yeah.
And Neil, like late 80s. So what makes like the Dolphins, like they have a pretty decent following. Like you guys are not the only 2 people I know that are like Miami Dolphins fans. I hear this. I'm like, is it the colors? Is it Dan Marino or no? The colors are like one of the greatest color schemes in, I think, sports. Like everybody, like growing up, I know everybody in the starter jacket had that teal. Is it teal or is it not teal? Light blue, baby blue.
We technically call it
orange.
an aqua.
Yeah,
I've got a blue
orange
screen on me, which is what like kind of screwing with the color of it.
Yeah,
Neil's kind of got the same thing. Both of it, it's like a little bit more green than it looks on us.
One of the greatest color schemes in all the sports. So I know like a lot.
I am surprised to hear you say that. I mean, especially particularly as a Jets fan, but also just I feel like in general, I think that there's some people who like the color scheme for that. I think for a lot of people, it's something of. I've always took it as a badge of courage, just in that if you're a grown man who decides to wear aqua and orange, you must really you're not doing it because it went with your outfit. It goes with no outfits.
Exactly.
It really does. Unless you're like Neil, like you and I growing up in New York, it's like starter jackets or anything starter or anything sports team oriented was very fashionable. So I know a lot of kids that had that Miami Dolphins starter jacket with the matching hat. Yeah, and matching sneakers. They would find the matching sneakers, and it was very, very popular. Did you have starter gear growing up, or particularly Miami Dolphins gear growing up, Neil, or did you?
Not a lot of Miami Dolphins gear. Too poor for that. So
yeah, I got you.
There's that. Yeah,
I feel guilty. I was like, I had a starter jacket.
New York.
Well, look, I mean, look. He was mocking us earlier with how good a city's doing. Now you're like, I was so rich as a kid. Meanwhile, Neil's just got like a teardrop going down his cheek. Yeah. Must have been nice.
Now, Dave, did you have any
I mean, I didn't have a starter jacket because I lived in Florida.
I mean, you grew up in hot.
I had no
starter jacket. Woo! Hey, you see Dave wearing the starter jacket? Yeah, he looked nice, but he looked hot too. So it's like,
well, that's like the Florida move. Like in Florida, like anytime it gets down into like the upper 50s, everyone pulls out like their parkas and they're like, "Oh my god, I feel like I can see my breath."
That's LA. That is LA. Yeah.
So, getting back to the success of the team, like the team, like they very definitely had their ups and downs. I mean, you became a fan. Marino was like the greatest quarterback. He retired 99.
I thought it was 97.
Yeah,
it was 99.
It was 99.
I was looking up his last playoff game. It was 99. They got beat by the
Jaguars.
Denver Broncos. No, Denver Broncos.
I'm like all kinds of wrong.
Yeah. But I remember the 99 playoffs. I was looking at in the division. They wild card. They beat the Seattle Seahawks in the 99 playoffs, and then after that, I'm just going through the history. Then after that, they lost to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, tell me, is there a rivalry like Florida rise between all the Florida teams, like the Tampa Bay? Well, Tampa Bay Bucks, I know it's a different conference, but is the Jaguars like?
Well, I feel like Tampa Bay is like Florida's Florida. Like Florida feels about Tampa Bay
right.
Florida feels about Tampa Bay the way that like the rest of America feels about Florida. It's
Yeah.
but yeah, I
It's
think
not
that
kind.
the Jaguars and like I think those are just really just unrelated parts of Florida. Like if you live in South Florida, then like I don't know how they feel. Maybe they have strong feelings about South Florida one way or the other. It's almost like the kind of New York Boston thing. Like people in
Gotcha.
Boston hate New York, but people in New York are unaware that Boston exists. Like
Yeah.
it's kind of like that with South Florida with the other regions
Yeah.
of Florida. Like it's not we don't like hate Jacksonville or Tampa or anything.
Yeah. You know what? I messed up. I got this wrong. 98 was his last season.
Okay.
He beat the Buffalo Bills. He beat in the wild card game, and then he lost to the Denver Broncos, who then went on to win the Super Bowl that
Yeah,
same year.
I remember that because Shannon Sharp was talking all this shit because I think the Super Bowl was in Miami that year, and
Yeah.
he gave. I love Shannon Sharp. I can only enjoy him in hindsight, but it was like he was like a WWE personality. He was like,
yeah, absolutely.
he basically
Always
cut a
cutting
promo.
a promo.
Yeah, because his promo was like parties at your house and you ain't even invited. And I was like, oh fuck this dude.
Yeah. Screw that guy. So that was like Miami Marino's last year. Do you remember Marino's like final year? Like how did it go? Like his send off? Did he like was it like a big deal to you, or you back then you didn't understand it, or was it like all right? Yeah, he's played long enough. Yeah, this is last year.
Well, we had Damon. It's the classic thing of like you don't know what you got till it's gone. I remember like we had like Damon Heward, and like there was I think it was a season or two before Marino ultimately retired.
Mm-hmm.
He got hurt and missed a number of games, and Damon Heward came in and like played pretty well. I think they were honestly, as stupid as this is in hindsight, I think there were a lot of people in Miami who were like, "Screw Marino, we've got an even better quarterback, Damon Heward." Like, it's the classic bullshit of like, yeah. I mean,
it wasn't going to be like one of those like Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers type stories, or even Peyton to at one point Andrew Luck type stories. Like, oh man, we got the next big thing. It's yeah.
Well, that's been our whole story. Is just kind of wandering through the desert for the last what feels like 40 years.
Yeah,
like just trying to get a quarterback.
The Heward brothers were a big deal back then, but it's been a lot of disappointment after Marino. So.
Yeah. Fast forward after that was Jay Fiedler. Jay Fiedler had like he wasn't bad. I mean, I looked at a 99 playoffs. They beat Seattle and they beat Buffalo in a wild card. No, my bad. They beat Seattle in the wild card and then lost to Jacksonville.
It was like 63-0 or something, or it was like 63-10. We lost to Jacksonville. It was by a score that like my brain. I feel like normally I'm good with numbers. I feel like my brain is like
62-7. 62-7.
Yeah, my brain is like deliberately trying to not remember the exact. It's like PTSD. Yeah, I think Jay Fiedler again though. I think Jay Fiedler honestly was another kind of we didn't realize what we had to.
And Jimmy Johnson was a coach at the time too, so you get those winning ways with Dallas. You just can't,
he had some great drafts with Jimmy Johnson. Jimmy Johnson drafted Zach Thomas, Jason Taylor. I mean, our defense at the time was like Sam Madison, Patrick Surtain,
and those guys are like big. I know, like Zach Thomas and this guy,
Jason Taylor.
Yeah, big deals, man, over there.
Yeah.
So,
and it changed our identity because we had been. I think for most of the era with Marino, we were this team that was. Like obviously amazing passing game, but essentially no defense, no running game. And Jimmy Johnson came in,
never.
And then and then all of a sudden, like
never.
Neil's face is how I have felt so much. I mean, I think so much of like comedy in general is a deflection away from dealing with emotions, and I feel like when you cheer for a team like the Dolphins, you really need a sense of humor about it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's like I root for the Jets. I'm an idiot. I know I'm an idiot.
The Jets.
You're
like, I cheer for the Jets. I'm an idiot, and I'm like, if it was any other team, I'd be like, hey, no. But you're like, no, the Jets. No, you might have.
So So we fast forward to 2000. Same thing. Now explain like the stadium now. Like I know, Neil, you went to your first game down there, right? Your first ever football game. And how was your experience coming from New York to traveling to Miami? How did
It
that
was
like?
amazing, and I have the towel from that first game, and there's the date.
That's a big
on
deal.
that.
Awesome.
And the old logo. You missed the old logo
Yeah.
with the Miami with the tight helmet on the
I
Dolphins.
do.
Like, ow, my head.
That was
I like the old logo better because now it's like this one. It kind of looks like a killer whale, and
yeah. I don't like it. I've got
I'm
like
not a
the-
fan. I'm not a fan.
This
Not a
logo
fan.
is like the old like Merino era,
Yeah,
like 72
yeah.
Dolphins logo.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it was like that logo that Neil has. They made it in like 97, and like 1997 was like the height of the everything had to be extreme. Like it was like X Games and like Surge Soda
Yeah,
and like
that's
everything's
true.
so it's like someone looked at the Dolphins logo
Red
is like
Bull, yeah.
we want to make him look like he's pissed. And like
Yeah.
like if you look at like the Dolphins logo on Neil's
Angry
towel,
whale.
it's like they took this like dolphin, like yeah, and now he's just completely emotionless, just
like
like
they covered up the blowhole and be like, why are you covering up the blowhole? Just that anger. Like Dolphins are supposed to be happy. Man.
Right.
It's just like there's an unhappy dolphin.
It's like
I
an
don't know.
orca. I'm like, what is that? When I saw it, I was
Yeah.
so angry.
but it's also just I think it's one of those things too though of like trying to make the dolphin angry is it's a silly team mascot to cheer for. Just embrace it. Like put a helmet on it. Like just like
Yeah.
if you're gonna go silly, go silly. Don't try to make it like a tough, intimidating dolphin. Like
No.
you chose a dolphin. You could have chosen like you know like
You
all
could
the other
ship the
teams are all like
sharks.
all the other teams are like lions and bears and shit, and like we're the
Yeah.
one team who's like, hey,
Yeah.
we're surprisingly smart.
Yeah, now let's go back to the movie, I guess, in '95, Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, because that kind of like that probably made some Dolphin fans as well. But that was cool, like, you know, if you see like, you know, I'm a Knicks fan, so when I see movies like Eddie
Yeah,
or like any scene with like involved with the Knicks, you're like, oh, that's cool. You know what I'm saying? My
Sure.
team is featured in this movie. So like Miami Dolphins was like Ace Ventura was all about the Miami Dolphins and like
Yeah.
the mascot and the history of the team. So you can consider that a Miami Dolphins almost a documentary to the point because it just. So how did you feel about that movie coming out and like how like, you know, as a Dolphins fan you appreciate it more than most?
I mean, I knew people. I mean, in South Florida because they shot that movie. Like all the football scenes are not. You mentioned the stadium. The stadium was like Joe Robbie, which I think they built in like probably like 88 or 89 or something. But all the football scenes in Ace Ventura are shot at the Orange Bowl.
Oh yeah,
I mean, just like the Dolphin Tank. Like I mean, there was no.
Well, that was their first home when they initially were created. So and then they built.
So they went back to the old
stadium.
to shoot that stuff. But I mean, it's for
which
people
makes sense. Yeah,
for people in South Florida though. I mean, there were a ton of extras that they needed for the football scenes. So like, I knew people who were extras in that scene. I mean, it wasn't even that limited of a group. I mean, they just needed a ton of extras for those scenes. So it was like, yeah, I mean, it was like a movie that was very. I feel like we were really proud of it locally.
Yeah,
That's
I think
cool.
so. Because like I think there's actually like Ray Finkel jerseys for sale.
Oh yeah,
if you want to buy a Ray Finkel jersey, you can, and it's just
and among Dolphins fans, it's a joke that we kind of enjoy.
Yeah, and not only that. All right, so talk about your experience again, going to your first game. And what was the name of the stadium? Because I know it like had a bunch of name changes: Joe Robbie, then Pro Player, then Sun Life. I think at
that time it was Sun Life.
Okay,
it was Sun Life at that time, and I think I've seen 2 games in Florida. Like every now and then I will take, like my parents, they retired down there. So I would go down there and I would visit them and also see a game coincidentally. And it'd be just a lot of fun. So my first game that I ever went to down there at Sun Life was against the Raiders.
Okay.
And they won that game.
Nice.
And then the second game that I saw was against the Jets.
And this year was in Miami or
in Miami.
Okay, and then what year was that?
Oh man, I can't remember, but I want to say it was like 2013 or something like that. It was either 2013 or 2012, one of those years. I went to go see them, and it was a whole different feel. I mean, first of all, when you go to a Dolphins game, it has kind of like a family feel. You know what I mean? Like you can take your kids to a Dolphins game and everything is fine. It's not like an Eagles game or a Jets game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like even when they lose, we're still like, oh, we still love them. We still love our team.
Yeah, so you're not different like the asshole fans. And Miami, I guess from Dave, I want to get your take on this. Miami's not really I mean, I know they have sports, but they're not really a sports town per se. Like I remember Miami
not at all.
Into a fight, so
I can speak to that. That's 100% true. I feel like generally speaking, the best sports team towns tend to be places who have the worst weather. I mean, like, because you go to Green Bay and they will die for that team. You go to LA, like people were unaware a game is happening, and that's the same with Miami. I mean, there's like the famous story of the NBA Finals when like the Heat were down by like I mean they were down by like some like pretty small, very achievable margin, and everyone just started leaving the NBA Finals on a Tuesday night, and I think that's the epitome of like what the sports vibe in Miami is like. Even among Dolphins fans, like in New York, there's a group of fans like Dolphins NYC.
I've heard of that.
Yeah, and they meet at Slattery's, and everyone gets together, and they're like all these diehard fans. I feel like there's a stronger diehard fan vibe for Dolphins fans in New York than like when you actually go to games. But I wanted to touch on something though, because Neil, going to see a Dolphins game where they're playing the Jets in Miami, that Neil is why I've hated the Jets my entire life. Because the thing is, like,
the asshole Jet fans.
Well, you guys. It's not even just Jets fans. The kind of person who moves, in general, the kind of person who moves from New York or more often New Jersey to South Florida is the worst garbage kind of person.
Insufferable.
They bring their fandom down there.
I mean, you go to Florida because things did not work up for you up here.
Exactly.
and the thing is, so then in Florida, you grow up around all these jerk offs who are just like, you call this gold, I'm from Hackensack, and it was like. And the thing is, so you go to Dolphins games, and the thing is, there's so many people from New York and New Jersey who live in South Florida that when the Dolphins play the Jets at home, at best it's 50-50 Jets fans and Dolphins fans. Well, because I mean, just like me, I mean,
Miami's like a transplant city, like that. You're not going to meet too many people like born and raised. in Miami.
And look, I mean, I moved to New York. I didn't give up my sports team. They don't give up theirs either.
Yeah.
But it's just, to Neil's point though, Miami in general is the kind of the relaxed vibe, and then all of a sudden there's like these like. You're around all these Jets fans who are just the worst, just a bunch of deadbeat dads and like just garbage.
Not only that, they're not. They haven't been. They haven't been. It's not like Giants fans. Like, oh man, we've seen Super Bowls in the last.
I told you, I was about to get into a fight with like a bunch of jerk off New York firefighters. They were just being jerks at the game, and then I saw them on the plane home to New York.
Aqua.
Yeah.
We could be the worst. I honestly admit that. Now, Dave, do you root for any other? Go ahead, Dave. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I honestly though I wish the Dolphins had a little bit more of that. Like I think that it's there is like part of me. It's just like my own like inner trash that like I'll see like. I feel like I'll see like Eagles fans or Raiders fans.
Oh,
Jets
Philly!
fans.
Well, Philly.
And like I'll just see them like just so psychotic about their team. And as someone who cares about the Dolphins, to just an unhealthy level, like it's just it's this thing where like I wish like Miami had a little bit more of that, just like a sprinkle of it.
Right.
Mm-hmm. But it sucks. Now, Dave, do you root for any other local teams in that Florida area or not really?
I mean, because the thing is, I moved to New York. I guess it was like 15 years ago. So I've lived up in New York for a while now.
Okay.
So, honestly, my baseball team was the Marlins, and they just fuck them. Like they just, well, it's like.
But at least the Marlins, that's another thing, because Marlins won like two World Series. I know nobody cared, but.
No, this is why it was so personal for me. I cared. Like I was at their first game, and the thing is like, so like they won in '97, they won again I think in like 2003, but it was like they won in '97. And then just sold the entire team, which is just a really heartbreaking thing.
Yeah,
but like,
and they also shared the stadium with the Dolphins. And
Yeah,
that was
and that was the
weird,
thing.
right?
So same thing happened in 2003. They won again, then they sold the whole team. So after the second time, I'm like, fuck it. But then, like,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, so yeah, my baseball team after I moved up to New York actually just became the Mets, which is even
Oh,
more
wow.
personal. It's like breaking up with someone and they're like dating their best friend, or
Friend,
like,
yeah, because they're in the same
or maybe
division.
not
It's
best
like
friend, like
Marlins and Mets.
yeah, it's like more personal. Like you're
But
gonna
there's
run
not
into
enough
each other.
Marlins fans to care. You're like, why did you do that, bro?
No, I know. Yeah, I mean that's. I think that
And
like
you dated down. It's like you dated down because the Mets haven't won anything. So I'm a Mets fan too, unfortunately. But the Mets haven't won in a very long time. You know
the
what I'm
Mets
saying?
fans thing for me was just that like because the Mets aren't
The
great at because they're not
you
great
got
at
a lot of
baseball.
free tickets.
Yeah, tickets are like, if not free,
You got a
very
lot of free
inexpensive.
tickets.
And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, my real passion is drinking outdoors, and
Yeah.
yeah, the Mets allow me to do
Anyway,
that
any
very
baseball
inexpensive.
game,
Fair.
if you don't
Yeah.
pay attention to the baseball, is like
No,
actually a
well,
fun
the Mets
hang.
literally in right field in Coca-Cola Corner. In right field, the Mets have like giant Jenga and like cornhole. They have all these games set up for you to play
It's
during the
very
game
family friendly.
because they know that like what's happening on the field is depressing, but they're like, just don't watch what's happening on the field. Just play Jenga.
Yeah,
You
just
need
like
games to distract you from the actual game.
Yeah, we know what
Gotcha.
you're seeing on the field is kind of bumming you out, but
and it's baseball because baseball is played every day. It's like, all right, we just need people to come to the game.
yeah.
So it's kind of like going to a comedy club. It's like, the cover's like next to nothing, but it gets expensive when you start buying food and you can't leave. Like a baseball, it's not mandatory to buy food, but if you're sitting for a whole game, which is average like almost 3 hours, or it probably is 3 hours sometimes. It's like you're like, all right, I'm not leaving. I'm gonna buy a $10 hot dog and a $20 soda and a $30 beer.
That, though, like I feel like this became a commercial for like Citi Field, but like I honestly even that I was kind of surprised like the prices. Normally, like if like football game prices, you buy a beer and it's like you have to like get a payment plan for it because it's like very expensive.
Well, it's different. It's like they operate once a week, so it's like, all right, we got.
No, but that's the thing. Like Mets games and stuff. Like honestly, like there's times where like I'll even just go hungry. Like is it like I'll show up hungry, planning to eat. They have like all this good food, and it's like a little bit more expensive, but it's like not terrible.
You have options. It's like, all right, if I went to a restaurant in Manhattan, and it's like, I'm getting the same type of almost quality food, and like certain places, like you got the Lobster Grill or
but again,
Shake Shack.
I think that it goes back to them not being that good at baseball, though. They're like, we better have some pretty good food if we're gonna try to get people to come.
Exactly. You have to have something to give. Like, especially sitting through baseball. And I always thought baseball, if you're not, I'm a diehard baseball fan, but like, to certain, like I took my niece and nephew one time. They were like, what the hell is going on?
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, kids don't get baseball nowadays. But yeah. All right. So now I'm going to touch on the 2000 the Monday Night Miracle, if you remember this game. The Jets Dolphins game where the Jets made a huge comeback in the fourth quarter. Do you remember watching that game?
This is what happens when you come on a show hosted by the Jets fan. It's like
that's the only thing I have, bro.
Why don't we talk about the fake spike game? Remember when Dan Marino faked a spike and made your entire team look like a bunch of fucking idiots?
That was amazing.
I
remember that.
Remember when Dan Marino beat your entire team with pantomime?
Well, there's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot. Right now we're going to talk about the Monday Night Miracle. That was a big deal. That was a big deal. Hey, at the end of the day, both our teams suck. Okay.
No, I know.
Yeah, but do you remember watching that game? It was October 23rd, 2000. Do you remember watching that game live or any memories, Neil?
To be honest with you, all my disappointments for the Dolphins have been melded together because there are so many games where we're up by halftime and we're like, oh, we've got this in the bag. We're up by 27. And then you end up losing the game. That's happened so many times, I can't even count. We are monsters in the second half.
I remember the game that you're talking about, but it's also just, I feel like as Dolphin fans, though, I think there's kind of been a change in eras. And it happened right around the time, like 2004, like when I started, and that the Monday Night Miracle, I mean, part of why that was so crushing at the time is the Dolphins were still believed to be a really good football team. And like when you're a good football thing and something terrible happens, it's shocking. Really, in our recent history, we've been on the other side of those miracles because when you're terrible, anything good that happens for you is a miracle. I mean, like the Patriots
right.
games. I mean, both this year and last year, the two times we beat the Patriots twice.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, we've played them 4 times in the last 2 years,
Mhm.
but yeah, I mean, like the end of that game, year before last, the Miami Miracle with all the
Miami
laterals
Miracle.
and shit.
Yeah.
This is the thing though, is that it's almost hard. That's why it's hard to respond to your question. Is it's hard to go back to a time when it was surprising for the Dolphins to lose, like
Mhm.
because it's just such a different mindset than it's been for like a long
Yeah.
time now.
Yeah.
But yeah,
true.
I do remember watching it though, and I do remember, yeah, what you're hoping
Yeah.
for, you can get. It did make me sad.
Yeah.
Is that what you wanted to hear?
No, that's
You
yeah,
sadist.
that made my
Yeah.
day, man. This is
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's bro. That's all I
There's a
have,
very
man.
clear
Sorry.
baseline for my sadness as a Miami Dolphins fan.
I want to start a separate podcast where I just bring Jets fans on and I just show them games where the Dolphins beat the Jets and we just watch them together.
Hey, that's hey, bro. That's really all I have now, man. I have really, both the teams have been struggling, but hey, when you're in the the same uh division at the New England Patriots, there's not too much to
Well, yeah,
smile about.
It's a hard division. The Colts used to be in that division.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's it's difficult. But now it's just I hate it so much because it almost seems like before the season's even begun, like the Patriots are favored. Well,
Yeah.
maybe not this year.
Oh God, I want the Patriots. I know it's not going to happen because Belichick's still around, but it's just I keep waiting for this epic collapse that just never happens. Even like
Well, it might happen.
I,
But now that Tom Brady's not there, I mean, I know he was getting old, but who
cheering
knows?
against the Patriots has been like cheering against gravity. Like it's just
That's
so
true.
unsatisfying.
It never happens.
That's why I think that's why part of why the Jets hate the Dolphins and the Dolphins hate the Jets is. I mean, don't get me wrong. I hate the Patriots with a fiery passion, but again,
yeah.
like on a day-to-day basis, though, on a day-to-day
Unless you're a
basis,
Giants fan, then you're like, all right, yeah, you guys can beat us. You know what I'm saying? When it
Yeah.
counted. So
the Giants are the one team that have that on the Patriots of like, yeah, well,
always and forever. Yeah, they'll
Yeah.
always have that. All right,
Yeah.
so yeah, real quick, I'm gonna run down the history of the quarterbacks of the Dolphins after Dan Marino, and I'm pretty sure you guys know. So '99 was Dan Marino's final year.
Yeah.
So in 2000, it was Damon Heward and Jay Fiedler.
Yeah.
So that was then Jay Fiedler went there at least till 2003. So Jay Fiedler wasn't that bad at the time.
no,
right?
his QB rating was always like in the mid 80s. Like, I mean, he was like a solid, perfectly serviceable quarterback. Decent.
Yeah, so yeah, he did the job. Then you had 2004, you had AJ Feely.
Yeah, traded a second-round pick to the Eagles for him.
Yeah, and then Fiedler and then Sage Rosenfeld started the game that year.
Yep.
And then 2005, it was Gus Frerotte. He was like a journeyman, right?
Yeah, that was the Nick Saban season. Nick Saban found, and again, I think we were like 9-7 that season. But yeah, he was just looking for someone with experience. But Gus Frerotte, most famous for slamming his head into a wall.
Yeah.
When he was with the Redskins. Yeah.
Yeah, and then 2006, you move on. You had Joey Harrington.
Yep.
I thought it was going to be okay. I think he got drafted by the Lions, right?
Yeah.
I remember when you got him, I was like, oh, you know what? That's not a bad
And then they
pickup.
kicked him out of Detroit because he played piano. They were like,
Yeah.
no one plays piano in this town.
No one. Yeah, then Dante Culpepper, who I remember in the Vikings was at one point he was one of the best quarterbacks, and because he was so mobile and elite, you know what I'm saying? Kind of a little bit of that mobile quarterback thing.
Dante Culpepper was so we had the Saban season. We went into it. We're really excited for the next season because it was like, if we're this good with Gus Frerotte, we're gonna light the world on fire. That offseason, and every Dolphins fan remembers this vividly. It came down to 2 quarterbacks, and they were both coming off injuries. There was Dante Culpepper, who, like you're saying, put up insane numbers with Minnesota. There was no reason to think.
Yeah, when you have Randy
different.
Moss, you could just
And
throw
the
it up
other
in the
quarterback
air.
was a very badly injured Drew Brees, who had just torn
Yeah.
all the muscles in his shoulder.
Mhm.
And the thing
he
is,
thought he was done.
and the thing is, he wanted to play for us. We were Drew Brees' first choice, and the doctors on our team were like, one dude hurt his knee. You can still throw with a hurt knee,
Yeah.
but like an injured throwing shoulder is critical. So yeah, I mean yeah. I think I don't know if I have to say the rest of it. I think it's pretty clear how that decision played out.
Wasn't Culpepper on the cover of Madden that year?
Yeah.
No,
Part of the Madden curse.
he was, but
No,
he had the Vikings. He was in the Vikings. He was. I'm gonna say 2002. He had the. He was the cover dude.
I remember that for Madden commercials that year, though, he got traded to the
he
Dolphins,
was.
and all the Madden commercials were him. It was him throwing to Wes Welker,
Yep.
who was also a Dolphin. What's so funny though is Wes
Yep.
Welker is only a special teams player, so I remember people being like, he's throwing to a special teams player. That dude's never going to catch passes in a game."
And then he goes to New England.
A bunch of things that aged poorly.
Hurt so much.
Yeah. So then after that, it was Cleo Lemon, who started 7 games in 2007.
Yeah.
It was like,
Cam Cameron. That was the Cam
Yeah.
Cameron season. We went 1-15.
1-15. And then Trent Green started like 5 games.
Badly. There was a game against the Texans where he went into a defensive lineman. He was like trying to like cut block him, but he was just so much smaller than this defensive lineman that he concussed himself while trying to take a cheap shot at a dude's knees.
I remember that.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I remember that. That was
all right. Before I go on to this list, Dave, talk about the first game you ever went to.
The first game I ever went to was
and that was you were dating the cheerleader.
No, I'd been to a game before. The first game I'd been to, it was the Colts were still in our division, so we were playing the Colts in Miami.
That's right, before the realignment, right?
And it was
the expansion teams came in. I think the Cleveland Browns came back and then they realigned everything. Or that was around.
But yeah, it was a fun game. Again, that was like during the era. It was late '90s.
Not Marino though.
I want to say that it probably wasn't, because I think it was Peyton Manning's rookie season where he was terrible. I mean, he was decent, but his team was terrible his rookie season. So we won that game. But yeah, I think the quarterback I don't remember. But yeah, we won, and it was a good feeling that gave me a misguided idea of what cheering for the Dolphins.
And who did you go with?
Just my family. I mean, your
family. So that was cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was in probably middle school or something. Yeah.
So that was a good game.
Yeah.
As a 15-year-old, it was just like an experience that you could always remember and take with you. You know what I'm saying? I remember my first Jet game was Warren Moon and the Houston Oilers.
Yeah.
The Houston Oilers and Warren Moon and the Jets. They made a run. I can't remember. I still have the ticket. That was in '91, so I can't remember what was the exact score, but I remember Warren Moon was there and the Jets lost, as they should have. So it was like, all right. So let me get back to the 2008. Chad Pennington, a former Jet, came in and he was pretty good there. Didn't he make a Pro Bowl with you guys, or he did?
He was most improved. I think he might have gotten like a Pro Bowl alternate, but he was honestly, I mean, aside from Tannehill, I think that he was probably the best quarterback we had. I mean, his arm was shot at that point. I mean, he was useless beyond 15, 20 yards tops, but really efficient though.
Yeah. So after that, you had Pennington, and 2009, I guess Pennington gets hurt, and Chad Henne comes in.
Yeah. Chad Henne, we had a joke amongst Dolphins fans that his wife knew that he was interested as soon as he walked in the room because he just stared her down from as soon as he walked in. Chad Henne had this habit of just, from the time he hiked the ball, he would just stare down whatever receiver he was going to throw to the point where even watching at home, it was obvious. The way quarterbacks would look off safeties and stuff. Not Chad Henne. Chad Henne's keeping no secrets.
And then move on to
backyard football as it can get.
Oh man, it was bad. Moving on, Chad Henne. 2010, Chad Pennington comes in one game. Chad Henne plays the rest of 14, and then Tyler Thigpen starts a game. 2010, 2011, you had Henne and Matt Moore. In 2011,
I like Matt Moore.
Yeah.
Oh, did? Why'd you like him? He was all right.
Well, I feel like
he's better than Chad Henne at the time. He was like,
well, yeah, that, and I felt like he was taking the team to a place that it had never been before, namely the playoffs. And we were feeling good about being Dolphins fans.
Yeah.
And he did that recently because remember, you and I went to a game.
Oh
He
yeah.
came in. He came
Yeah.
in for Tannehill, who I violently dislike. And yeah, we made it to the playoffs.
First
It
off,
was a
thanks
first
to the
round exit, of course, but still.
thanks to
Yeah.
this year's Super Bowl, Chad Henne and Matt Moore, both Super Bowl champions now. So yeah, really took a turn. But yeah, Matt Moore was always a dude, and I mean that happened even like before he came to us with Carolina, where he's that classic kind of gunslinger dude who can come in and do some good things to the point where you're like, why is this dude not a starter? And then like you watch him start for like one more game, and he throws like 10 of the most misguided interceptions. You're like, that's why. That's why.
Yeah.
And it's just and then from 2012 on, it was Tannehill. So
Yeah,
and Tannehill was like serviceable for you guys. You know.
Yeah, I think because he did well for the Titans, there was this kind of widespread thing around the NFL of like, oh, the Dolphins didn't know what they had. Yes, we did.
Yeah, we did.
I mean, I don't think anyone. I mean, there's always like extremely dumb fans. I think most Dolphins fans who are reasonable. I think the feeling with him was never that he was terrible, but I think that that's almost worse in that if you have a terrible quarterback, then you know that you need to get another one. If you have like say an Andy Dalton or something like that, that dude's going to be your quarterback for like 10 years and he's never taking you anywhere. And I think that was the thing is that Ryan Tannehill was, especially after all the dudes you named. I think there was also John Beck in the Cleo Lemon season.
Yeah, I named him.
Yeah. 27-year-old rookie Mormon quarterback John Beck. But the thing is though, I think Tannehill was again like I think most fans of Miami, it was always this frustration because he played. It gets mentioned all the time. He played so much receiver in college, so he came into the NFL, and no one really knew what his potential was. I mean, there was kind of the seemingly unlimited upside, and then after a couple of seasons, you start to get an idea of what the upside is. I don't think he's a bad quarterback. I think he's a solid one. I think that if anything, even like with the Titans, I don't think he's reached what he's capable of. But I think what he's capable of is that kind of like
him coming, I guess, taking over the starting job in Tennessee. They went, far in the playoffs. Actually,
but it's just
that's how I won fantasy football. I started Tannehill one game, and it's just like, I picked him up.
I think that,
and I got lucky.
I think on his best day, he's Alex Smith. Like I think
that's accurate. That's accurate.
Yeah, he's an accurate quarterback who's mobile, who can run when he needs to. And again, like I mean, Alex Smith is. There's a lot of teams that would be happy to have an Alex Smith type quarterback, and I think that that's what Ryan Tannehill is. But I think that it's if you don't have a great defense, if you don't have a great running game,
right?
I mean, you've seen how quickly franchise quarterbacks just completely turn teams around. I mean, you saw like with the Ravens last year, the difference between a quarterback, and again, like it's a perfect example of what I'm saying, and that like Joe Flacco, the dude who Lamar Jackson replaced, was not a bad quarterback.
No,
he was a solid one. But that's the difference between a solid quarterback and a star.
Yeah,
and
and it's very hard to find nowadays. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
It's like get a quarterback. It's difficult.
Yeah, the year when Tannehill got drafted, I wanted a receiver for the Dolphins, and I felt like we could have gotten a receiver, and then we could still went out and got, I don't know, Alex Smith. But
well, I mean, or in that same draft in the third round, we could have gotten Russell Wilson, but
Yeah.
Fine.
Neil's eyes is like, yeah. Oh my god.
No, that's the thing. I mean, I have I've got 3 jerseys, and one of them is Tannehill. I mean, Tannehill was definitely a dude who. I got it
for a long time. I'm leery
you
of
are
getting
brave.
jerseys.
You know what it was? I bought it out of optimism. It was like the second season. Yeah, because the other ones are Dan Marino, obviously, and
I have one of those,
Cameron Wake, who just
Cameron
Wake is just. It's also the kind of thing where it's like, I don't know what's gonna happen with his career, but he's just like the easiest dude to cheer for. Just the dude who like works insanely hard, who just like
he does. He totally did.
Yeah.
I had Brandon Marshall and Ricky Williams.
It's funny, like we'll talk
Yeah.
about
Both
Ricky
are-
Williams, but like running back wise, the Miami, Miami's always been a passing team, but you also had a guy named Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was
He was pretty good. I remember
Solid.
Neil talking about he had his jersey.
Yeah,
Like,
I had a reversible jersey for him, and
wow.
It sounds
and it
incredibly uncomfortable to wear.
It was
A
cool. It
reversible
had both. It
jersey?
had the home and away colors.
It was a
and,
champion, right? Was it a champion?
I think it was a Reebok or something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, well,
I
maybe
remember those reversible jerseys.
maybe
They were
the
pretty
brand was champion, but
Well, I don't know. Maybe.
Was it home
Yeah,
white?
it definitely
and,
wasn't the team. So
Yeah.
then
with
what
the
happened was I was on my way back home from college,
Yeah.
and my bag got stolen on Greyhound, which I didn't know at the time was foreshadowing of Dolphin seasons to come.
I think it's more
Wow.
just foreshadowing of Greyhound.
Yep.
Now, was the reversible? Was the home white and aqua blue away? Were you dark colors are home in NFL, but like, was it home aqua and white away? Was it the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar jersey? Was it?
For us, it's
I'm
not.
talking to
Yeah, it's not. It's not.
For us, home is white.
That's confusing as hell.
Yeah,
'cause
I know.
like,
Yeah, it's we're one of the rare teams that is home white and then
Do you
away.
any reason why? Do you
Yeah.
know the reason why? Or
I don't know.
I don't know, but I will say just I mean while we're talking about
because I know the Dallas Cowboys always like majority of the time they wear white unless they play a team like the Redskins, who's also like at one point were predominantly white too. Now I think they may wear more of their dark jerseys, but I just don't know when. It's confusing.
Every Dolphins fan I know wants us to go back to our throwback jerseys. And it's become this weird tease where a couple of times a year,
to kill a whale.
well, yeah, I mean that's what this polo shirt is from. Is like this is from the couple throwback games we play a year, and seeing what our team looks like with the old logo with the throwback colors. Our throwback uniforms look great, and again,
they do.
I don't know a single Dolphins fan that doesn't.
Eventually, usually teams like if the fans demand it, they'll end up going back to their old jerseys.
Yeah, there was one year where on Thanksgiving,
like the Jets just got new jerseys this past season, and they're not bad because they got black. They're a combination of the jerseys they wore in the last 20 years, which is technically a throwback of their 60s teams, and the 80s teams where they wore the green and the Jets with the tail on it.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of a combination of both. And I kind of I got used to it. At first I didn't like it, but I was like, this isn't bad. So let's see, if fans start.
I always prefer just the iconic, I if you have a bad logo, I mean, because there's a couple places where logos have been redone, when the Denver Broncos changed their logo and changed their colors.
Yeah,
they improved. It's better logo, better colors.
Helps a lot. Yeah, if you have winning teams,
Bucks.
Yeah, I mean, there's teams that have done it where it works. But the thing is, I mean, I feel like for the iconic teams, I mean, as much as I dislike the Jets, I mean, the Jets are, I feel like just you have an iconic logo, you have iconic colors and stuff like that. Just don't try to do too much. I mean, you don't have the Yankees go into every season what should we do with the uniforms and the logo?
No, they're not going to do anything because they're the most successful sports team ever. You know what I'm saying?
But I think that's the thing, though. I think that, especially with the iconic teams, and again, it's a lot of teams like the Packers and the Giants and teams like that.
Yeah, they don't really change up.
But I think that you should. Colts, another one that.
It's also merchandise too, with certain markets. If your team's not doing well, they're like, all right, let's throw out.
There was that one year where Dolphins we were navy blue on Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
and it was amazing.
That for that stupid sight colored people, for the sight disabled people or something? You remember that, right?
I do, but that came up more with the
for people who couldn't see colors. It was just so weird.
I think it was the Bills played. I think it was the Jets. I think the Bills played.
Yeah, I remember that one. Yeah,
but the thing is, for people who are colorblind, though,
I'm not sorry if I'm offending any colorblind people.
Trigger warning.
Please don't throw me. Nobody watches this show.
No, but I think that it was. I don't know how colorblindness works, but basically, the two colors that they turn their entire uniforms to are the two colors that colorblind people can't differentiate. So all colorblind people just saw a gray team playing another gray team.
It's just so stupid. Do you remember the Dolphins had alternate orange uniforms as well?
Yeah,
one year.
And for a long time,
they do that now or no? They don't do that now.
Well, our throwbacks that I mentioned have become our alternates. And Hopefully
But
they'll
not the
eventually.
orange ones. I remember the orange ones for a little bit.
Well, the orange ones, there was this kind of superstition that we had of one of them, like we called it like the pumpkin game because we wore these orange jerseys and we won. There was like a couple seasons in a row because you're right that we had the navy blue alternate, but for our orange ones were alternate for a while, and they're horrendously ugly. Like just looking at them is just like an assault on the eyes.
Yeah.
But I think that it strategically helped us against other teams because for pretty much every year, whenever we wore our alternate jersey, we would have an upset over whatever team we were playing. Like, I think it was just hard. First, I mean, that's statistically true, but I think it was just hard on their eyes. Like they were just like, "Oh, I hate this."
Yeah, I was saying because in basketball, I'm like a Knicks fan, and one year the Knicks had orange jerseys, and I actually liked them. And they got rid of them in like maybe like after a year because they would lose every time they wore them. I think they won like 1 or 2 games when they wore them, but most of the time they would lose. And like, nah, we're done with the orange jerseys. But I actually liked them. But oh well, they're out of here. All right, let's talk about Ricky Williams. That's a weird career, right? Let's talk about I guess when you got him and from this, like, you know, when the Saints had him and now he comes to the Dolphins, you're like, oh man, we got an actual good running back. And then he's just like,
when we got him, I think that year at Vegas, we were projected to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, Ricky Williams was so good, man.
Which was exciting, and then it wasn't.
Yeah.
Well,
and how long did he last?
He lasted a total of a really long time. I mean, because I mean, I remember Nick Saban was one of the dudes who kind of brought him back into the fold. So I mean, just off the top of my head, I mean, he left in 2004, and Nick Saban, 2007 was Cam Cameron. Nick Saban was the season after, so that's 4 years apart. Mm-hmm. But there was this thing though of like Ricky Williams was just. This is why all Dolphins fans love him for the most part. He's a dude who just.
He was a Miami guy. He was laid back. He's like, you probably left the game.
But he's also just so.
It's like,
he's also just so. He's so honest though. Like he was an incredibly hard worker. Like he'd always show up to practice. But the thing is, like there's like an interview, and like normally like sports interviews are all bullshit. Like, I mean, it's all just this, you know, like go out 110%, all this nonsense. But they asked him. They were like, "Why are you playing football?" And he was like, "Well, I left the team, and I owe a lot of money and child support to a lot of different people. So I'm honestly just playing football because I need the money right now." Yeah, and they were like, would you play like if you didn't need the money? It's like, no, I mean, it's really physically painful. Like the thing is, while he was saying that, he was also still the first dude to show up to practice and working his ass off. I mean, it's the kind of thing of like, to be that honest about your motivations and still to work that hard, even though it's not something that was a real passion of yours. He also, like in South Florida, right near where the Dolphins train, which I think is still there, but it's in like Nova University in Davie. Nova University, Ricky Williams would actually just teach a free meditation class. and I never made it because I was already up in New York at the time, but a buddy of mine went, and you show up and it's a free meditation class with Ricky Williams, and there was only maybe 20 people there.
That's insane.
No, this is the thing though, is because he wasn't like, I don't know if social media was even a thing at the time, but he wasn't like loudly advertising it. This is just a real passion.
Just staple something on a flagpole on a telephone pole. It's
well,
like,
that's the thing. This was just a passion of his. He wasn't doing it for self-promotion reasons. It was just something he really cared about. But it's so funny. But my friend said that the strangest thing was, he was like, I got the feeling that I was the only person who knew about his football career. Because not only were there only 20 people, but a lot of them were like older, like super like meditative, like it didn't seem like a bunch of football fans who were trying to meditate. It seemed like a bunch of meditation people who were unaware about the football stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's just, everything that you find out about Ricky Williams, there's this documentary about him.
His 30 for 30 run.
Yeah, his 30, his 30 for 30.
Amazing.
I mean, honestly, like I even if you don't like football, you walk away from that liking him. Like great dude.
Yep.
Yeah.
Turn his life around. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so really quick, let's talk about like the Miami Dolphins, I guess the organization as a whole, because they have a lot of like celebrity ownership. Can you tell us how, like, I think Jennifer Lopez owns 1%.
The Williams sisters.
The Williams sisters own 1%. And just like, well, how does that happen?
Stephen Ross. So our owner basically, Stephen Ross, when he bought out the team, it just seems like a celebrity worship bullshit. But he came up with this idea that never caught on, and he tried to call it the orange carpet, like as a different version of the red carpet, of trying to make football games a celebrity event.
Celebrity, yeah. Which
So
will never be because
yeah, of course.
I can't see J-Lo sitting at maybe in Miami, I guess it's comfortable and you could sit at a January game, but it doesn't have the same appeal as sitting courtside at an NBA game. You know what I'm saying?
I think that Stephen
That's
Ross
really dumb.
I mean, there's been a ton of awful owners in the history of sports. Stephen Ross, he has bad ideas, but he does care. Like he's put a ton of his own money. The whole renovation of the stadium all came out of his own pocket.
Which I'll get to.
But I mean, he spent all this money everywhere. I mean, for a long time, we're finally getting out of this. But it was like every offseason, he would spend a ton of money on Ndamukong Suh or Mike Wallace or whoever that he.
That's what I was saying. That was I remember him coming there.
But that's the thing, though, is like it's frustrating that he's making such dumb decisions. It's frustrating that he held on to incompetent people like Jeff Ireland for as long as he did. But you can't make the case that he doesn't care. You can make a case that he doesn't know what he's doing because, I mean, it's impossible to argue that. But yeah, I think that the celebrity thing, though, it's one of those things that even just the first time you hear it, you're like, that's the dumbest idea. Of course that won't work. And it doesn't. There's no crossover. Also, like, you're not like, I'm a fan of Jennifer Lopez. Oh, she owns 1,000,000% of a football team. I guess I'll cheer for that football team. Like, no.
Yeah, and a lot of celebrities. I remember at one point, like Jay-Z had a stock in the Nets.
Sure.
I think Usher still has a stock in the Cleveland Cavs, and it was like celebrity. That's a big deal.
I think that the difference though is like Jay-Z's stock in the Nets though. They needed to sell this stadium to downtown Brooklyn.
Right. Yeah, that was
like
a really hard. Yeah.
And the thing is, like, the idea of Jay-Z owning, whatever tiny percent of the Nets he owned, at least accomplished something, or even if it didn't accomplish that thing,
maybe a little bit of a fan base. You win
the credit. It gave it street cred. It was Brooklyn official when that happened.
Yeah, I mean, at least you understand what they were going for. Whereas, like with this, it's just like Jay-Z
boring
fans
at its finest.
Jay-Z fans could be NBA fans. Jennifer Lopez fans, I don't know how many of them are diehard NFL fans, or like the Williams sisters. Like
like with the NBA game, it's like a fashion show. It's a popularity contest.
Yeah, NBA games are celebrity events.
You dress up, you know what I'm saying? It's like you don't have to people wear Knicks jerseys or any jerseys of the team, but it's not often where like football is just like, we're gonna get hammered and grill. It's like
I think part of it too,
pretty much.
Well, like logistically though, like I mean the whole idea of turning it into a celebrity event. NBA games are a celebrity event because you have courtside, which are, if you watch games courtside, no matter where you are courtside, you have an amazing view of the game.
And NBA
those seats don't those seats don't really exist in the NFL.
Yeah, NBA players as well as celebrities that go to the game, they can be seen. It's not like football.
Sure.
NFL players, they wear helmets. Like you don't know. Like I remember running into like football players at the airport, whatever. And it's like, do you know what that is? I'm like, no. You know what I'm saying? And then like, NBA players stand out. They're like, all of them are like 6'8" and and they don't wear anything over their face. So it's like it's a different story. But with the NFL, it's like, it's just like, hey, we're going to a game, we're gonna get hammered, we're gonna grill, we're gonna, you're not gonna wear a suit to the game. You know what I'm saying?
No, agreed.
It's definitely a different vibe. So like, I guess like Miami tried to do get all the celebrity ownership, and it just like, whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, Dolphins. Go
ahead. No, you go
ahead. no, just closing out. I mean, Dolphins fans from the beginning when they did that were just like, what are you doing?
Yeah, and
I think it was the game when they were announcing that they were all in the arena, and I think The Rock was also there for some reason, and it was weird. We were like, who cares about any of this? When we get to the game, can we win this game right now?
We
didn't. We lost that game, but whatever. The Williams sisters were there, and J-Lo was.
Yeah. whatever. Now let's talk about the name. Like this stadium that the Miami Dolphins still play in had like, you would think they'd like moved every 10 years because they had the name, but they just changed the name of the stadium like every 5 years. Like in the beginning, Joe Robbie, who was the original, I guess, founder of the team or put money in the team, it was it was Joe Robbie Stadium from like 87 to 96. Then you had Pro Player Park, where it was they were a competition of like with Starter with sports apparel. It's like Pro Player Park, and the Pro Player Stadium from 96 to 2005. Then they went to Dolphin Stadium, which I guess was like, all right, let's give some time to like get a new like name on here. Let's see what corporation wants to buy in.
Sure.
And then they went 2010, 2009. They went to Land Shark Stadium. I don't know what Land Shark is.
It's a shitty beard that Jimmy Buffett owns, and so Jimmy, but no, it gets even worse because like Jimmy Buffett, it's like his shitty version of Corona. So the Dolphins have a song that they play every time we score touchdowns, which I'm not going to sing for you. If you're watching this, pull it up on YouTube.
I know what it is.
Treat yourself to the greatest song in the history of the world. So,
okay, I just watch it and be like, okay.
Well, yeah. So that actually kind of goes back to the celebrity thing. So apart from the celebrity owners, Stephen Ross also had T-Pain do his own remix of that song, which is just terrible. During the brief time,
he's a native of Florida, right?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, most like the South.
It was either him or Flo Rida, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely Flo Rida.
Pitbull.
Rick Ross, Trick Daddy, all that Miami booty bass.
Yeah.
Uncle Luke.
It's Khaled now. Yeah.
But no. So during the brief time that it was Land Shark Stadium, they actually replaced the song with this fins to the left, fins to the.
That's the one.
And the thing is, like, to replace an iconic song with some corporate shit, it's like, fuck Jimmy Buffett. Like,
it was pretty bad.
Like,
did he open a Margaritaville in there too? Yeah,
I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
It's like I don't know, but like it feels right. Yeah, probably.
Yeah. So it went from Land Shark from 2009 to 2010. It went to Sun Life Stadium, which is actually a pretty cool name, and it's actually an insurance company.
Yeah.
And then from 2016, Hard Rock took over. So now it's currently Hard Rock Stadium, and now last year, you guys put a roof on your stadium or retractable type of whatever canopy, whatever you want to call it.
It doesn't retract; it's fixed, but it does. What I love about that, and it would be a huge advantage if we were ever good, is the way. Well, the way that it's angled is so our team is in the shade and the other team is in the sun, and in South Florida, that difference is huge.
Oh, it is.
I'm aware of this because like a couple of years ago, I was home and I got tickets to a Dolphins game, and I was like, "Why are seats in this one section so cheap?" Because I was like, because you're baking in the fucking sun.
Yeah,
there were seats that were like 3 rows. These seats were like 3 rows off the field, and they were like real cheap. But yeah, it's
really
like you jumped into a pool
at that game.
Well, I think also just I think because it pours, like when you live in South Florida, basically from April to August, it's just going to rain every single day in the afternoon from about like noon to 3 or 4 p.m.
Yeah.
Like it is funny because you'll talk to people who are in Florida for the first time and are like, you're talking about what you're going to do the next day. And they're like, but it's supposed to rain tomorrow. And you're like, yeah, it's going to rain every day. We're going in the morning. It won't be raining then. Trust me.
It's going to rain in sections around the city for like 5 or 10 minutes.
But to make games watchable, though, I think that it was important because it just, for as much as it rains in Florida, I think it was a necessity. And
now, do you think the weather, I guess, with the roof, is there like a home field advantage for them now, or does it?
Huge. I think honestly, like that difference. It's funny. Like if you haven't noticed it before, when you're watching, assuming NFL games ever return, the next time that you're watching Dolphins games, though. Look at the Dolphins sideline and the other team sideline. You'll see the other team sideline. They're trying to do everything they can to put up whatever makeshift shade. But it's honestly it's an unfair enough advantage. Like I'm surprised that the NFL even allowed it. But like that's it. You haven't seen it in the scores just because we haven't had a team good enough to capitalize on it.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, that is a
One
huge
day.
advantage. Yeah.
One day.
One
Well, I think
sweet day.
every state like the in MetLife. I mean, the elements, because it's a cold city. It's a cold weather city. It's like they left the roof open. Like if MetLife had a retractable dome or like you know a roof, like they would make so much more money in my opinion, because you get so many events in the New York area, so many indoor events like the Final Four. I think next to the Super Bowl, the NCAA tournament is the biggest sporting event in America. You know what I'm saying? So imagine getting a Final Four in the New York, New Jersey area. That would be such a big deal for the city, as well as like, you know, things like WrestleMania, which came, I mean, you know, as a big wrestling fan, I know Dave, you're a big wrestling fan.
Yeah,
so like, you know, like coming, like, I mean, they came last year and the year before, but it's still not comfortable to go to.
Yeah.
Like, for example, I went to the Super Bowl in New York. I wanted to be a part of it because it was like such a big deal. You know what I'm saying? And like, you know, first time like ever going to Super Bowl. First of all, like fan experience at a Super Bowl, especially this one, it sucked. Like it's like if your team is in the Super Bowl, it's a different story. But like me not having a rooting interest, and just the experience of being at a live Super Bowl, like compared to a regular live game, like I'm pretty sure if like I went to maybe like an NFC championship or AFC a conference championship game would be a much better experience because it's actually about the game.
I think that's the biggest problem too with the Super Bowl though is the vast majority of the people who go to the Super Bowl are not fans. Most of the tickets are corporate tickets for like whoever was the fucking best regional manager.
Sections. I think the people up high probably like, all right, like, you know, say like I'm pretty sure if the Dolphins make a Super Bowl, you guys are like, be like, all right, I'm gonna make this happen. I'm gonna at least try
Dolphins
to
make
go.
a Super Bowl. I will go any distance to watch them lose that Super Bowl.
Same.
It's a big deal. But just like, go ahead.
I think you're right though. AFC and NFC championship game though. There's
it's more about the game.
No one is there to say that they were at the game. I mean, I think that well, not no one, but I think
and it's mostly like it's not at a neutral site. It's not. It's at the home team stadium. You know
it's Super Bowl just became like a status thing. Like it's just like, hey, here's me at the Super Bowl, and it's just like.
Take a
a lot of people I know that don't care, but we watch it because it's embedded in our heads to watch commercials and eat guacamole all day. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I want WrestleMania to become that. I want like, you know, like
I mean, to wrestling fans, it is. You know
I want it socially to become.
Now, real quick, did you go to WrestleMania this past one or no?
Oh no, I didn't.
Oh, because so many people, especially comedians, win. They said they like, it's like
they did. I like the idea of it being like what the Super Bowl is. That's though where like even people who don't watch football still watch the Super Bowl. Well, that would be cool if like once a year everyone just gets together. It's like, I don't watch wrestling. I just go to WrestleMania parties for the snacks. It's just a social event. And then there's a couple people in the couch like, shut up, guys. Undertaker's on.
Like I wish it was that big. But Super Bowl, like going to a Super Bowl live, and plus the timeouts are longer. There's a lot of TV timeouts because the commercials. That's a big deal. So a game that averages to maybe almost 3 hours ends up being like 4.5 hours because of the spread. It's like a different element, even for the teams that are playing. You kind of feel bad for them because they're out like, all right, damn, we got all this time. Either it could work in their advantage or work against them because it's not it's not the pace of a normal.
You're right.
Normal
halftime
game.
show kind of a big deal, especially this year. So many people tuned out after that was over.
Yeah, it was just like it was different. And if the game settled, it's like, all right, there's no reason for me to watch this game. It's just like, you know, it's more than a game. It's an institution almost. You know what I'm saying?
I think that's part of why it's an advantage for teams who have been there before, though. Just because,
like the Patriots, like longer, we got a break.
well, it's also just like, I mean, you've been playing football your whole life, so I mean, like you get to a Super Bowl, you're going to be a little bit more hyped than you normally would be. I don't think there's any avoiding that, but I think that it's especially with what you're saying, with the different pacing, with longer halftime, longer commercial breaks, longer everything. I think for the teams who have been there, who have that experience, like they're not as thrown off by it. But
All right, guys. So I'm gonna just wrap up with a few, I guess, kind of rapid fire questions, and then
Sure.
yeah, we'll wrap this thing up. Neil, who's your favorite Dolphins player of all time?
Dan Marino.
All right, besides Dan Marino, because that's kind of
Besides Dan Marino, man, I would have to say Mark Clayton.
Mark Clayton. All right, cool.
Yep.
All right, Dave, what's your favorite player besides Dan Marino? If it's not Dan Marino,
I would say probably either Zach Thomas or Cameron Wake for the same reason.
Zach Thomas. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Like,
Both Zach Thomas and Cameron Wake are both just dudes who worked incredibly hard, like dealt with like a ton of people. I mean,
Jason
they're like
Taylor too. That's another guy you can look back. And
well, it's also just, I mean, well, like among Jets fans, like the Wayne Corbett's and like the dudes like that who are like the undrafted dude who like really kind of
underdogs.
Yeah, I think that Jason Taylor. I mean, he wasn't drafted super high, but he's also just a dude who was just such a. I mean, you hear like Cameron Wake's story of
the beast
playing like things falling apart, going to see like the CFL, working at Bally's for a couple of years. I mean, but yeah.
Yeah, because the lifespan of an NFL player and then going and coming, it's like you're not too removed from regular life. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're an injury away or a cut away from just like, all right, filling out an application at UPS, basically. Sure. It's like the realism of doing that. It's like, it hits very close to home. Sure. All right, guy. One more question for you. I guess in 2020, where would you if we, like I said, if normal comes back, what do you, as a Dolphins fan, what are you hoping? I guess for success, obviously, but do you hope to get to see any, I guess, Dolphins, of course, win a Super Bowl one day, right? Is that
sure.
Before you die?
Yeah, I'm tired of people talking about 1972. So
yeah, well, it was a Jet fan. We live with Joe Namath. There's always 69 Jets are always brung up, and I'm like, all right, that's enough. I can't take it anymore. And it's like,
and he guaranteed, and then you're like, yeah, I know. I've heard.
Yeah, but it's covered like all the time. So it's like, all right, guys, we sure picked the wrong teams to root for.
I think honestly though, Brian Flores. I mean, I will say this: I am definitely a believer in Brian Flores. I mean, part of why it was infuriating last year was if we would have just lost the last two games, we would have had the first pick. Brian Flores won a bunch of games I did not want him to win, but yeah, I mean, I'm hopeful, and I feel like that's what keeps Dolphins fans going. Hope.
Yeah.
Well, all right, Dave, and Neil,
I was going to say that I was hoping that we draft Tua, maybe. That could be something that can turn our team around. And, and also remember that we are the reasons why the Patriots got pushed into that game against Tennessee to lose. Yeah. So there's that.
When you cheer for a team like the Dolphins, you really got to find your victories. You're like,
you really got to.
We beat them, and then they beat this other team. So in a roundabout way, we kind of.
Doing God's work, man. All right, guys. Well, I think Neil, do you have anything to plug? Anything? I know we're not doing comedy. Can we see you on TV?
Well, Swatches and Boom Boxes is the podcast.
Yeah, if you're a hip hop guy,
we have 90s hip hop podcast that we have, and we're still doing it because we were social distancing before it became a mandatory thing.
Yeah, this is all we got now. We have memories. That's why I made the show. It's not about the current product. It's just about the memories.
Check that out.
We have, and if we make it
on iHeartRadio, iTunes, everything.
And Twitter, you're certified hilarious, or Instagram?
Yep. Oh, I'm on Twitter. I didn't connect everything. On Twitter,
your PR people, Charles, PR people have to talk to you.
There's another Neil Charles. There's nothing I can do. And then
that's true. We have to kill.
I'm certified hilarious.
We got to find the other Neil Charles and back him down.
He's a musician, and he's probably really smug. Fuck that.
That does sound like a musician. Neil Charles with his jazz music.
It is with his jazz flute. All right, Dave, anything you want to plug, man? Thank you for coming on. Dave, you want to plug anything?
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me. I mean, kind of relevant to what we're talking about. I have a website, savingthedolphins.com, and a Twitter for it, savingthefins, PHINS. The website, to be honest, hasn't been updated in a couple of years, but it covers a lot of stuff.
You haven't made that visit to GoDaddy. in a while.
It just became pretty depressing. I mean, the site's still up though, but yeah, I mean, it's jokes and comments about like a lot of those seasons that we're talking about here.
All right.
But yeah, it might. Yeah, I'm on Twitter at David Kinney, and just like Neil, also not matched.
Your PR people have to do.
Neil and I like to make ourselves hard to find. We like
No,
to
that's-
reward.
that's-
Yeah.
No, we just
You're-
reward our true fans.
Yeah.
You gotta go on a
And,
scavenger hunt just to see me live before this
Yeah.
whole coronavirus thing hit.
Yeah, maybe we could all go to a game.
Yeah,
That was
I love
for me. I've been to me
Yeah,
and
I'd
Neil
love
been to two
to.
games together.
We've
That
been
was
to
fun.
games together.
We've been to
Yeah,
games together. Yeah,
I saw you guys at a game
Yeah,
together.
the Jets won the first game we went to, and I bought those crappy seats. And then your wife, shout out to your wife, the second
Yep.
game. You guys
Yep.
came. Your wife came through, bought us nice seats.
She
To see
did.
an ass whooping.
We got some
Dolphins
playoffs
love that.
that year.
I remember you were like, hey, you want to go? Like, let me know when you want to go. And I was like, yeah, we can go. It was like third quarter. I think that at the end of the third quarter, I was like, yeah, we can go now. Speed the traffic. All right, guys. Yeah. Again, I thank you again. Appreciate it. We're both in the same division, so screw your team. You know what I'm saying? I can't wait for your team to go.
Back at you, boss. Thanks for having me.
And we always have fantasy. You know, I hope one of you guys win it because I won some big money. I paid off stuff.
Yeah, look,
Money
paid off-
burns.
I paid off a
Money
phone
burn
bill or
every year.
two.
yeah. When you
You
cheer
know
for the
what I'm saying?
Jets and Dolphins, all football is fantasy football.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Accurate.
All right, guys. Again, thank you guys. Thank you out there for watching. If you watched, this is Rooting for Laundry. This is the second episode. We're hoping to have other episodes. We're gonna cover more teams and have more great guests like Neil and Dave on. So guys, thank you again. Thank you for tuning in. Follow us at Root for Laundry, IG and Twitter. They're both the same. Okay. All right, guys. Again, thank you for staying. Appreciate it. All right.
Thanks for
All
having
right,
me.
guys. Thank you again in Facebook and YouTube land. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Yep. Thanks.
Oh, Dave signed out for real quick. Neil, thanks again for doing this, man.
Thanks for having me, man.
I thought it sounded great.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.